Okay, hey everybody, thank you so much for joining us today at the RT podcast. Respect, humility, and empathy. Those are not the most important values in life, but certainly as far as communication goes, those are three of the most important. And that being said, I got a special guest today calling out of Knoxville, Tennessee. Is that right?
That's right.
Yeah. And can you introduce yourself, Larry?
Well, I'm Larry Rhodes. I go by Doubter5 on my podcast, digitalfeedthroat.com blog podcast, which goes out on Wozo Radio, which is a local low-power radio station here in Knoxville. You can see the information above my head there.
You got quite the setup. I feel very low budget.
It's a professional DJ studio.
I feel very low budget. Oh, no. I actually have a little makeshift studio in my room. This is my room, and so I can get some decent quality stuff going on here.
Well, sure.
But so that being said, I read from your profile that you actually was in Cuba. You were actually in Cuba?
I spent a year in Cuba when I was in the Navy in Guantanamo Bay.
Guantanamo Bay. I saw this.
There was a radium in there. It was way before it was a prison.
Oh, okay.
It was just a communication station and a naval base there.
I saw this funny quote that says, waterboarding at Guantanamo Bay sounds like a great idea unless you actually know what that means. Actually, yeah. My sister spent 3 months not Guantanamo Bay. She spent 3 months in Cuba right before George Bush had put these really strict travel restrictions to Cuba. And amazingly, I actually got to go to North Korea. And within about maybe 6 months, around 6 months after, they closed the area that I went to because the North Koreans shot and killed a South Korean tourist. So wow. I kind of got in there at a very opportune time. So
yeah.
Can I ask you how long you were in the military and what branch?
Oh, I was only in for 4 years, between 68 and 72. I volunteered for the Navy rather than be drafted to go into the Army and sent to Vietnam.
I was going to say you just missed it.
Oh, I was eligible for the draft, but I elected to go into the Navy a week after I graduated high school, so that wouldn't even be a problem. Both of my brothers went into the Navy rather than be drafted to go to Vietnam. And we both survived the Vietnam War, of course. So, but we are Vietnam era veterans, right. Not Vietnam era. I mean, not Vietnam veterans.
My mom was a Vietnam vet, but she didn't go to Vietnam, but she serviced the guys who had been blown up. So she told us a lot of those kind of stories growing up about some of the encounters that she had. And it's very traumatic, as you can imagine, as a 18, 19-year-old woman encountering guys who were blown up from the war, you know?
Yeah, I had classmates that were drafted, and some of them didn't come back.
Wow.
And the ones that did, of course, came back changed.
Oh, yeah, I bet. My cousin was a not Vietnam, but my cousin was an Iraq War veteran, and I remember him telling me about what it was like coming back and trying to adjust back to life. Any chance you ever seen the movie Brothers with, God, I cannot think of the guy. I'll look it up right now. But it's about this Jake Gyllenhaal. Jake Gyllenhaal's in it. Is that right?
Yeah, he's in it. Mm-hmm.
So, and I can't remember the other guy who's in it. But anyway, the point being is that he winds up going to Iraq, and then he comes back, and there's this really crazy scene where they're at the dinner table, and the daughter makes a joke to him. I'm not going to give away any spoilers if you haven't heard it.
No, I haven't seen the movie.
But the child she makes some kind of joke to him, and he gets really, really angry that she's made a joke, and she's like, Dad, like this is the joke, and he can't really process it. Like something has been changed about his mind, and then she's like messing around with the balloon, and he grabs it and he breaks it because the sounds like were throwing him off, you know. So another one of our guests who went to Iraq, he said that it was the garbage trucks. When the garbage trucks came,
Mm.
that caused some reactions out of
Flashbacks.
him. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
No, I saw a movie called Heroes with, of all people, Henry Winkler in it, who was a Vietnam vet, and he had a lot of problems with flashbacks and PTSD. If you haven't had a chance to see it, it's God, 40 years old. Heroes came out in '77. I recommend it.
Heroes. I don't think I've ever heard of that one. Oh, just out of curiosity, what is your favorite war movie of all time?
Oh goodness, Apocalypse Now, I guess, would be a good one.
That's a good one.
There was a series called Brothers in Arms that was on
Uh,
HBO, which was very good.
about World War II.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. My
I
dad was a World War II vet,
Oh
and
wow,
he was captured by the Germans and spent
wow.
9 months in a prisoner of war camp.
Are you
So
serious?
that was close to home. Yeah.
Wow. Hey, I got an interesting story to tell you. It'll blow you away about World War II. The captured POWs, they they were Nazis. Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
there was a concern that they might be fraternizing with the nurses who had to take care of them. So what they decided to do was to send black nurses to take care of them because they're like, with this racial superiority, they'll never go
Yeah.
after this. But this one couple wind up falling in love, and this historian wound up writing a book about them many years after the fact. She had just read some anecdote in some in a book, and then she went back and she researched it. And but yeah, it was an amazing story because they tried to go back to Germany, they weren't accepted there. They came back to America. Both sides saw them as being traitors, but it really went to show that love overcomes all, and even race, even Nazism.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Cool.
before we get started, I want to ask you if you could describe your religious journey or deconversion, or if there was ever a point that you had faith in your life.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I was born into a Christian family.
Mhm.
My deconversion story, and I recommend that everybody who's deconverted from a religion to atheism write their story down
Mm,
as encouragement, or at least support for other atheists or believers who are trying to make the trip. Or a lot of times you make the trip without really wanting to or trying to. You
mm,
just lose your faith. You find
mm,
out you no longer believe it. It's
mhm,
more of a realization than anything else. But in my case, I was born in a Christian family, went to church, was raised. I didn't go religiously to church. My mother was the religious one. My dad, not so much. But I certainly believed in God and Jesus and all that before I went in the Navy. And in the Navy, if you didn't go to church, I didn't like going to church.
say no more.
I didn't like religion, even though I believed.
If you went to the military, if you were in the Navy, like say no more.
Yeah.
I've heard the
Well,
stories in the Navy.
yeah. Well, what I did do, if you didn't go to church on Sunday, then they found things for you to do, like mow yards or
Potato duty.
potato pillar in the kitchen. But what I did was I used
Potato
that
duty.
time to explore the churches of other beliefs. I went to Islam church, a Jewish church, other things that were out there. I just, learned, just went there to see what they were doing. It didn't really shake my beliefs, but it gave me a kind of an idea of what they had in common. And, just God belief that their God created the universe and the earth and people. But I never did really lose my belief until after I got out of the Navy, took the GI Bill and went to UT here in
Mm,
Knoxville, Tennessee, University of Tennessee. There, I met my first quarter there and met and fell in love with a very pretty young girl who happened to be an atheist. And her father
wow.
was a deacon in the church. Uh,
Wow.
and she knew my religion better than I did and didn't
Wow.
buy any of it. So we had long conversations going late into the night about beliefs and
Hmm.
the counters to those beliefs. And by the end of that year, I was seriously questioning. And by the second year, I was pretty much an atheist. I did no longer believe.
So I went to Bible college my freshman year, and I wound up becoming an atheist just by being around all the Christians and seeing the level of hatred and judgmentalness that they had. But I was in love with the girl, and she went on a missions trip to Indonesia, and she got bit by a snake and she died there.
Wow.
So yeah, it was a pretty traumatic. A lot of things wind up playing into that, but I did wind up becoming an atheist that freshman year, and I didn't wind up coming to Christian until the age of 32. I had a very.
Can you tell me about your deconversion from Christianity to atheism?
Well, as I said, my mom put a lot of pressure on me to go. I started asking some questions, like listen to this. So we took a survey of the Old Testament, and they asked, or we're asking about, like, why is there's this genocide or this slavery, and the professors would like justify it, and it's like, oh man, some of their justifications were pretty harsh. And I remember probably one of the biggest doubting things that caused me to really doubt. One of the things that really caused me to doubt was that sometimes we'd have some prayer requests in the morning. And one of the times we were praying for someone's mom, they were sick. And then the next week they came in and said, oh, my mom's better, the cancer's gone, and everyone's clapping and stuff. And then sometime later, I can't remember the order of this, but someone has said, oh, my wife's coworker is going to get an abortion, and she has an opportunity to speak to her today before she goes, and let's pray. So we prayed, and then he came back in the next week, and they're like, oh, well, she still had an abortion. And they were like, well, we can't really know God's plan. He's going to work something out in all of this. So I was like, you attributed one time to God, then the other time not. And then a third time, I remember, maybe there had to have been other times where we had the prayer request, but this is just the one that stuck out. Another young boy was praying because he had some financial difficulties. Okay. And so we all prayed. And then afterwards, like, they prayed and everyone went their way. And I was just like, are we like not even going to try to do like anything to help him?
Right.
And I remember,
I
swear I had about $40 to my name. I was like super, super poor in college. And I gave him like $20 of that. I know it wasn't a lot, but that's like freaking half of the money I had.
Sure.
And so I thought, like, this was, out of those 3 prayer requests, this was the only one that we could have actually done anything. And we just didn't even attempt it. So anyway, it's a combination of lots of different things. And as I said, I went down my whole path, and if you look here, I got all the world religion. Can you see that? I got like all the world religions tattooed on me. I was into Islam. But yeah, I eventually made my way back to Jesus Christ. But that being said, I do have some questions I'd like to ask you, Larry.
All right.
First question is, what is the purpose of your show? Can you tell me a little bit about it?
Well, it's the show is called Digital Free Thought Radio Hour. And we have a collection of atheists and non-believers. We have a deist that comes on occasionally. And we talk about religions, religious faiths, God's holy books, and superstition. And we also talk about atheism, free thought, and rational thought, and the thought process. Matter of fact, we even discuss epistemology. Epistemology, for those who may not know, is the study of how we gain knowledge. And we cover a variety of topics. It goes out on FM radio here in Knoxville at a low power of only 100 watts, but it covers all of downtown. And since we record it, we also turn it into a podcast,
right,
which is available through many podcast outlets.
How long have you been doing this total?
So I've been doing the radio show once a week, and we have 230 episodes now.
About 4 years?
That's about 4 years.
Okay.
Yeah. And I've had my blog up for about 15 years, maybe 12, 15.
So does it concern you that if you surround yourself with a bunch of atheists or free thinkers,
Hmm.
that you've created like an echo chamber, that you're not really getting a variety of opinions, and there's a potential to be like just as close-minded as the people that you're trying to combat? Like,
That's
does that ever
possible,
concern you?
sure. No, every weekend, I mean, every week that we do this, we ask for input from anybody in the
Hmm.
audience. We supply an email address.
Hmm.
Matter of fact, I'll give you that now. It's called Ask an Atheist at KnoxvilleAtheists.org.
I love the
And
email.
yeah, and anybody can send us questions and we'll talk
Yeah.
about them online. But the thing about it is, we are not a closed off community. We talk about the world at large. It's a bunch of atheists that get together and talk
Hmm.
about it. But we also talk to many believers online through the
Hmm.
week and bring questions and topics back to the show when we discuss them there.
See,
Now, we
okay.
have had believers online,
Hmm.
but um, sometimes they tend to try to run away with the show and be preachy, if you know what I
Yeah.
mean.
Yeah, I did definitely
Yeah.
do. Well, so let me I'm telling you this because so I do this podcast and I normally have an atheist co-host. One of several different ones. They're not available at this point. And sometimes I just like to do some one-on-one interviews occasionally.
Hmm. Hmm.
So the questions that they ask are questions that like would not enter into my conscience. I swear, like I interviewed another couple. They're the founders of this Atheist Society of Kern County, which is my hometown, and their insights like I just would not I would never think about them. And
Sure.
so talking to people from a variety of
Yeah.
different
But
opinions and backgrounds is
you've
very
got
fun.
to remember that I'd say like 90% of all atheists have come from a religious
Hmm.
background.
Hmm.
We've grown up in that background.
Hmm.
We know the stories, we know the Bible, we know the arguments that have been brought to us because they are repeatedly the same arguments over and over again.
The
It's
moral.
not like we're waiting for some new insight to impinge upon our consciousness. We've been there, done that, and got the T-shirt.
Hmm. I see. So okay, so what is the purpose of an atheist society? And can you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, sure. The religious societies tend to want to marginalize and isolate anybody who doesn't believe. It's
Hmm.
just one of their tendencies. Um, they don't want them to to know that they even have a society, that it's okay not to believe. That when you're an atheist, especially like I was living and growing up and being an adult, I've been an atheist for 50 years, by the way.
Wow,
Um,
I'm definitely not
living
converting
in
yet.
the Bible Belt, it's like you're totally alone. So one of the reasons that we do this
Mm.
show is to know and have a society,
Hmm.
the group, as it were, is that we want to let them know they are not alone and
Hmm.
they can feel safe and comfortable with the society of other atheists here in Knoxville and in East Tennessee, and of course
Yeah.
across the world.
There's any chance you like country music?
It's an interesting question because I grew up in West Tennessee.
Uh-huh.
I watched the Nashville broadcasts all the
Oh.
time. I only had 3 channels back then, and country music was all over it. I
Yeah,
like
yeah.
the old country music. I don't much care for this new country music.
Oh, I cannot stand it.
I don't like it. However, and the reason I say it was funny is back in the 90s, early 90s, I lived here in Knoxville and they had a show that they recorded here called Club Dance. It went out all across the world on the Nashville network, and I was a regular dancer on that show for 5 years.
Wow.
So I heard a lot of country music there. A lot of it I didn't like, some of it I did, but I grew to like some of it more.
What are your by the way, I totally agree with you. I love that old school twang. Like
Hmm.
anything within the last 20 years, I probably wouldn't like.
Right?
Like, oh my goodness, Garth Brooks, George Strait, Clint Black. Oh my
Hmm.
God, that's like, oh, I
Yeah,
love those guys.
yeah.
But that
But
new stuff, yeah,
I
like.
prefer rock and roll. Yeah.
Oh, I prefer rock and roll any day of the week. But
Hmm.
my mom used to play country all the time growing up, so it's very
Yeah.
embarrassing. I'm a Mexican from the East Side and I like country music, but it's like
Hmm.
Yeah, I got into it because my mom.
Yeah.
So here's another question. I didn't write on here, but hopefully you don't mind improvise. But do you know what you get when you play country music backwards?
Oh yeah, you get a guy who gets his dog and his truck and his girl back,
When you get sober. Okay. All right.
and gets sober. Yeah.
Okay. So so actually this question is related. And the people from the Atheist Society, they told me this, that the
Which
people who
atheist society? The one here in
it's
Knoxville?
no, it's a Kern Atheist Society. It's my hometown. I can send you the link to that video.
Okay.
But actually, just side note, this podcast was created, had its roots at one of their events because they meet at pizza parlors and they have some beers and pizza and I went to one kind of
Here in
like
Knoxville?
no, this is my hometown, Bakersfield,
Okay. Well,
California.
I founded the Atheist
Oh,
Society
you
of
did?
Knoxville. So
Okay.
when you say Atheist Society and you said you started at one of those events, it kind of throws me off.
So
But
yeah, so in my
we'll see.
hometown,
Going forward, it's not ASK,
ASK,
Atheist
Atheist
Society of Knoxville.
ASK. No, so they go ask. Okay, so ask.
Yeah.
They call it ask. Atheist Society of Kern. Okay. Because I was
No,
thinking
Atheist
Knoxville, there was a
Society
K.
of Knoxville, which is where I live. I
Right, right.
started that group 20 years ago, nearly.
So okay, so the point is that, well, first of all, I went there kind of like to debate one of the guys because he was posting some really disrespectful Christian stuff, but I think he was doing it to kind of like fit in with them because
Uh-huh.
once he got to talking to each other, we really hit it off. Had a pizza, a few pitchers of beer, talked for like 3 hours. So like, God, I really like this guy. Like, I don't want to debate this guy anymore. So we
Mhm.
found common ground. That's the kind of things we try to do with this podcast.
Yeah.
We try to find common
Cool.
ground. But
Yeah.
the Atheist Society of Kern, what they told me was that a lot of the people, they came out of religion, as you said, and they feel very abused and very neglected and lied to and all this stuff. So they come out of there with like a lot of
Mhm.
anger and hatred. And they say
Oh,
they
let's
actually,
say anger. Okay. Well, I won't agree on hatred.
well, I'm telling you what they told me. And it says
Okay.
like they feel like um they see like a transition, like all that anger, and then the more they start to accept this side of themselves, and the more they see that the other people believe the same way that I do, that they actually say that they can see like a transformation that occurs in these people's lives. But they say one of the things that they miss the most is the community, because like objectively speaking, if I were to not become a Christian, which I can't ever foresee that scenario happening, but if I were to, like having that community, having that family would definitely be something that I would miss.
Well, yeah, church offers that, of course, but you don't have to have religion to have a
Right.
society. There are many societies out there that are civic societies, like even the Lions Club or some social gathering that you get together with. There was a country dancers social scene here in Knoxville. You don't need religion for community. Even neighborhoods get together for little neighborhood parties. Um, that's great. I
Uh,
mean, people are social animals.
yeah, I get that, but if yeah, if you have a church and you're seeing these people multiple times a week and you're spending a lot of holidays with them, it's like very, you can get a lot. It's like become family, like the people in our
I
family,
understand. Sure, I
like
understand. Well, that's one of the
literally.
reasons we have our meetings once a week.
I see. Once a week? What kind of
Yep.
things do you guys do?
During COVID, we had Zoom meetings,
Hmm.
but for years, before COVID, we got together at a local restaurant and had dinner together.
Mm.
And we would have 20 to 30. At one time, we had 45 people.
Wow.
I can show you a background. Since I'm using Zoom, I can choose a picture and show it as my background
Sure. Wow.
of some of these meetings, or at least one of them.
I'd love to see that.
Okay.
What kind of food do you normally eat?
Oh, pizza, calzones,
Mm.
chicken, baked chicken, fried chicken. Just all kinds of Southern food.
Oh, I was
It,
gonna
it's
say
it's a
that's.
pizzeria, so it had all of that.
And you have the tea, the sweet tea. You guys do
Yeah.
that?
hmm
Uh
Here's
oh, all right.
one. This is
And do you guys Do you guys allow like believers to join you?
Yes,
You do.
absolutely. Now, one guy, I mean, we've had all kinds of believers join us. You can imagine a public atheist gathering is going to draw some proselytizing. And this guy was no different. He came and he preached to us. He would sit down. We would talk to him about our common ground. We think
Mhm.
that we have ideas about reality and evolution and space and physics and all that.
Mhm.
He would literally laugh in our face and call us fools. And he came for 2 months. I mean, people just stopped talking to him after a while, but that's the kind of stuff that we had to put up with.
Well, I'll tell you this.
But we did have some nice believers come
You
as
do.
well.
You got any other pictures?
I'm looking now.
Do,
I don't keep a lot of those pictures in my Zoom background, but I could find some.
now, do you?
Here's an interesting picture you might enjoy. I was
Uh,
doing an Ask an Atheist booth, and this guy sat down.
oh! I didn't even see that. He's a knight.
Yeah, he's a crusader.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
interesting. Is a Christian guy?
is what?
He's a Christian guy.
Yeah, yeah. And he brought a cameraman with him. I was on campus holding an Ask an Atheist booth, for just people wanting to wander up and ask what atheist was about. Heaven knows there's plenty of religious proselytizing on campus. So I went and represented, and he came along.
So
What
you
was
know,
funny was that he wasn't dressed like that for me. He was dressed like that to go to a class, and he knew I was out there, so he swung by
uh,
and brought his cameraman and did a video. He was
I
there for about half an hour.
I thought he was doing that to kind of like to troll you, because that would be
Right.
like
Well, a little. He was a Christian, and he had a lot of good questions, and I was more than happy to answer them, from
right.
an atheist perspective.
But let me ask you this: how do you distinguish between a troll and someone who wants to have an honest dialogue with you?
Um, Usually, it's the attitude.
Mm,
Here's another picture. We've been doing this for 16
wow.
years, having meetings like this. The group has been around for 19 years, but we only started doing weekly meetings
Uh,
since like 2008, I believe.
so what is the ratio you would say there from believers to atheists?
Oh, right there. They're all members. I don't see any particular believer there.
I see. So actually, that leads right into the next question: is
Hmm.
do you think that atheism can be considered a religion or a cult? Because
Um,
hold on,
why would you think it would be?
let
It's
me
an absence of religion.
finish with
Sure,
the
go ahead.
question, because I am involved with an atheist community online,
Hmm.
and very recently I've actually exited out of there because someone had kind of like said that I was a progressive Christian, which
Hmm.
I'm definitely more progressive than other Christians, but they
Yeah.
like referred to me as being like affirming. And I said, well, I'm not exactly like affirming, because
Fermian? I'm not familiar with that.
affirming,
Oh,
like
affirming. I see.
affirming gay, LGBTQ. And so I said, I'm not exactly affirming, but I kind of have a position that's somewhat in between, because like I believe that hate speech should be illegal, and I do believe in gay people should be allowed to get married and stuff. But I said, like personally, like I wouldn't perform a gay marriage. I wouldn't attend a gay marriage, but um, like that's not something I think the government should be involved with, right? And
Right.
then so they started asking me questions, and I said, well, look, I don't think that it's possible to transition from being one gender to the other. I said, I could be wrong. I'm not an expert on biology or anything like that, but I said, this just doesn't seem like that's possible. And so as a result of that, I got dogpiled by everyone there. And like, it wasn't even like I was going in there and be like, oh, transgender gays. Like, I wasn't attacking anybody, but somebody asked me my opinion. So I'm like, if you ask me my opinion and I tell it to you, then why would you get mad at me for expressing my opinion?
This was in person?
No, this is online.
Well.
So
I can't speak for people online. You get all kinds of people on there. But getting back to your question, do you want to hone in on why you think?
just hold on, just let me finish. Let me finish the
Sure.
thought. So the point is that I really think, especially after experiencing that atheists can be just as closed-minded and just as intolerant in their beliefs as believers. And I fully accept that
Well,
believers
do you
are.
consider intolerance of intolerance a bad thing? I mean, because what they're doing is they're taking the opposite side of intolerance. I think you were presenting that you would not tolerate or not support or think
Mhm,
it's right that a person can change gender.
mhm,
Um, and they may have viewed that as intolerance. I don't know. I don't know. I can't really speak to it because I wasn't there and I didn't hear
right.
what you said.
Mhm,
But anyway, no, I don't think that they should have dogpiled on you. But
right. And but that's fine. If they just would have disagreed with me, that would be fine. But then people started attacking me on like a personal level, and this is what I this the
well,
same
that's
thing I
always wrong.
right. So I see this like if you like we need to say it's okay, we can agree to disagree on some points like respectfully. Um Attacking people and hurting people, that's never okay on
I
either
agree.
side. Either
Hmm.
side. And this is why, I had a bisexual guest come on, and um I told him I didn't think that uh I didn't think that hate speech should be legal. And mind you, he's LGBTQ, and he says, "Well, I think that hate speech should be legal." So it's like here's an issue, and we're kind of explaining about this, like because they were telling me that either I support their rights 100% or I'm not an ally, and I'm like, well, I'm like 75% of the way there. I'm not gonna. They want me to say that I
Well,
approve of that. Well, they want me to say that
yeah.
I approve of that, and I said I'm not going to say that I approve of it, but at the same time, I don't think that the government should be restricting people's rights like that. So anyway, that's just a case where even he was a member of that community, and I had a more extreme view than he did. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I, like I say, I don't see how you're saying that atheists are a religion or a cult because we joined together to. In that particular instance, you experienced an attitude from a group of people
No,
about a
no.
particular topic.
First of
I
all, as
mean,
a question,
huh?
I said first of all that was a question. I wasn't saying that I
Oh,
believe
the
that.
answer is no, I don't.
Okay,
Now, the reason I say that, and let me defend it a little
mhm,
bit,
sure.
if you look up religion, it usually has to do with common tenets,
Mhm,
a holy book, something that you can point to say, this is how we believe, this is how we interpret the world. And atheism, per se, is just one answer to one question. And the question is, do you believe in gods? Now, if you say no, you're an atheist. Anything else is something different. Like, let me give you an example.
mhm,
Taoism, it's
mhm,
a Eastern religion.
mhm,
So is Confucianism, and oh, there are several. Even Buddhism,
mhm,
uh, they don't believe in gods. They
mhm,
believe in ancestor worship. Worship.
mhm, mhm,
So theoretically, those are atheistic religions. But it's not the atheistic part that makes them a religion. It's their belief, when their holy books, their rituals, their tenets that they hold to uh, Taoism or Confucianism or Buddhism,
mhm,
in addition to them not having a belief in a God. Matter of fact, non-belief in a God is not in their books. It's just that it's like omitted. It's not there because they don't have them.
mhm. So, in principle, I understand what you're saying, and in principle, I would agree with you. But would you not also say, like by definition, if you don't believe in that, then you have to discount pretty much anything that's supernatural, or no? Would
You
you
don't
not?
have to. No, like I say, Buddhism believe in the soul, believe in continuity after you die, you reincarnate. Taoism and Shintoism believe that they're the spirit. continues to exist, and they worship their ancestors, but they don't have God belief. So you can say that there are whole religions which have supernatural beliefs that don't include a God belief. Therefore, they are atheistic. Like I say, anything other than that one answer to that question is something else.
Interesting. Okay. So all right, let's get past that one. But the overall majority of atheists, wouldn't you say, reject or would believe in materialism? Let's say that.
I'd say the overall majority of Western atheists, I would say, reject supernaturalism.
Okay. All right. So we had a very interesting talk with a guy who said that he wrote a book actually called "The Curious Cult of Atheism," and
Mm-hmm.
and we were interviewing him with my co-host from Canada, and I was like, I'll be very clear, like I don't believe that atheism is a cult, but there can be cultish like groupthink mentality that exists that and
In
this is
any
not
group,
just
sure.
this is not to say that this is not to say it's the case with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And there's obviously extremely bad fringe elements in every group, right? Because like as a believer, I would say I more closely would align with like a secular humanism than the religious fundamental right wing like Donald Trumpets. Like I just don't align with that.
Mm-hmm.
People who want to take the religion and shove it down people's throats via the
Right.
government.
Pass
Like
blue laws. Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'm not okay with that. So this is why I'm saying like anytime you're trying to paint anyone with the same brush, it's pretty hard to do.
Right.
But I'm just telling you what my thinking has been with this. What I've seen is that atheists can be just as dogmatic and closed-minded in their assertions as Christians
Are
are.
we not human?
Mm-hmm.
Humans can be closed-minded and dogmatic no matter what. But like I said, atheists, let's say that atheists, you take all the atheists in the world, some of them are going to be racist. Those particular atheist races could form a group, and that could be some kind of atheist KKK or something. That doesn't mean that the atheism was the thing driving their beliefs
Right.
against race. But they are human, and they fall to the same failures that all of us do.
Right. So I
But
asked.
I get the impression that you're trying to pin it on atheism per se.
Well, I'm just my experience has been that okay, let's just say you would say more often than not atheists tend to be liberal people, right?
Right.
Okay. So
I would say, but
I used to be extremely left-wing liberal,
mm-hmm.
and I'll tell you this, that community, they're just as close-minded as the people as on the far right. It's like you have to agree with us or you guys are just bigoted idiots. And you might not understand that there's maybe different reasons why people might disagree with something than the obvious reason that you think, right? Like for example, you might assume that if I don't want if I want to see some restrictions on transgender rights, for example, that I'm somehow bigoted towards them, but it's not. I'm actually concerned about my daughter. Like if a woman or if a biological woman who's transitioned walks into the bathroom with me, I'm not going to care one way or the other. It's not going to affect my safety. It's not going to affect.
I'm having a problem following you. You're saying that, I mean, you're speaking about atheists and liberals, and you haven't once mentioned anything about conservatives or believers being having those traits as well.
Oh no,
Are you just
absolutely
coming?
no.
I don't understand why you would. Are you saying that we claim not to be, but we are? Is that what you're saying?
No, so first of all, I said I would say I'm more closely theologically or uh, ideologically aligned with secular humanists than I am the religious fundamentalist. Okay, so I'm not saying that there's more or less of a disagreement, whatever, where I stand myself. Okay,
Well,
what I'm
you're
saying,
not. I only hear you singling out the leftists and the atheists.
what I'm saying is, because I've been a member of both of those groups, as an atheist, as a liberal, as an extreme liberal, I'm like a moderate now, but I've found that that community, like they're just as close-minded,
I
and they're just
disagree.
as,
Oh, I guess we can both have our own
yeah, of
opinion.
course. That's fine. I'm telling you what I said. So
Okay.
you have your experiences with your community, and you have those. I have my experiences in a different. Obviously, we're in a different generation, uh, a different age generation and culture, all that stuff.
We have all kinds of all ages in our groups.
Yeah.
I'm like the oldest, one of the oldest.
The
But if
point
you look at,
being,
go ahead.
yeah, the point being is that the liberals are like, okay, we have these beliefs, and if you don't agree with this, then you're just bigoted and intolerant and like an idiot and closed-minded. So if you take a look at, for example, a lot of the memes that atheists produce online, they're saying that they're more morally superior to Christians.
Oh, and the religious don't do that.
I'm not saying obviously that's the case. It's
Uh,
obviously
I'm,
the
I'm
case, but it's obviously the case that Christians do that. I'm saying that they both do it. That's all I'm trying to say. I'm not
okay.
making,
There are, like you said, fringe elements in both groups.
yeah.
But all I hear you talking about is the liberal atheists.
I'm not making any excuses for the trumpets, the right wingers. I'm not, or the religious people who want to project their religion onto other people. I'm not. There's no excuses for them.
Yeah, but you're
They
not
say
talking about them. You're just ignoring them entirely, and
no.
you're
I'm
saying
not.
that the liberals and the atheists are posting memes that show that they're superior and more moral,
Yeah,
and in totally ignoring the other side.
but we obviously know that, like, that's a given. That's a positive given that the people on the right, the trumpets, they think that they're morally superior. We know that. That's a given.
Okay.
So what the point I'm trying to say is that, from what I see, from my perspective, is the people on the left, or the secular humanists, they're just as intolerant. They have the same kind of intolerance and the same kind of
I
intellectual.
disagree.
Okay, that's fine. I'm giving you my opinion here. That's fine. We can
Okay.
totally agree to disagree on that point. What I'm trying to say is that there is a feeling of intellectual superiority, and I would call it snobbery as well, that we feel like the other side can't understand logic or
Okay. I'm
science or
getting
reason.
kind of tired of this. I think we should wrap it up. I've answered your questions that you put to me before, and now you just kind of settled in how the atheists and the liberals are morally inferior, although they
No,
post
no, I didn't say that.
morally superior and snobbish and and all this other stuff. I don't care to listen to this.
No, I'm not saying either side is better. I'm just saying that they both have these. That's the only point I'm trying to make.
Did I not say that we're
Yeah,
human?
yeah, of course.
Humans have problems,
Hmm.
and they come across sometimes. Even atheists, there are
Hmm.
bad atheists as well as good atheists,
Hmm.
and it's why would you dwell on that rather than talk about the issues itself? Atheism versus Christianity or Islam or whatever. You're just sitting there bad mouthing a bunch of people.
No, I'm not. I'm. That's not. That's. Please understand what
Let's
I'm
talk
saying.
about issues involved in beliefs. Isn't that what we should be talking about?
But see, the thing is, I respect your right to have your belief and say that even if you want to badmouth Christians and say that we have a certain, like, it's all right. We have a free country. You know, we should be allowed to express ourselves and not feel the need to demean each other. Is the point I'm trying to say,
Right.
Larry? Not that I'm
That's fine.
superior to you.
Yeah, but I'm hearing you demean us.
No,
Or
no,
maybe you're
that's
just saying we shouldn't demean you, and then you won't get off the subject. I don't
no.
understand.
I'm saying everybody. The point of this podcast, and why? Let me ask you a question, Larry. Why do you think I would choose as a Christian to have an atheist as a co-host? Answer that question to me.
Maybe because you want to talk about issues that you have with us, like
No, it's
that.
we find common ground. I told you the way that this podcast started was over some pizza and some beer,
Well, I understand.
right? So we talk about, as I said, I raise questions, I raise issues about their worldview. They raise questions
You're
about
not
mine.
raising Chris. Okay,
So
go ahead. Let's
I
try
don't.
to just put a pin in it and start again. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I don't. I'm saying they ask me questions. They question it from a different perspective than if I would just to hang around a bunch of Christians. I don't want to hang around a bunch of Christians. It's an echo chamber. one person says one thing and then they repeat
Sure.
it and then they repeat it and repeat it.
Hmm.
So for me, it gets me outside of my echo chamber, right? And then I'll be the first to admit that, like if you're just trying, let's say we got into debate and we're just genuinely trying to prove our positions right, Larry. And
Sure.
this is not what we do on this podcast. But if
Hmm.
that were the case, then what happens is that you you neglect the kind of points that I'm making because you're already trying to jump over to trying to think how can I disprove this? Okay. So that's the problem whenever you have debates, is that people aren't genuinely trying to see the other person's perspective or who's right. They're trying to win the debate. And so if you have to go low blow on someone, if you have to commit logical fallacies or whatever, you're just trying to win the debate. And so that to me is not moving along the conversation. Like actually having conversations with people and trying to understand why they believe this way. And that's the point I'm trying to make in all of this. I hope
Yeah, but you're not addressing why I believe that way. You're addressing the problems that you're having with particular atheists online,
Mhm.
and you're calling them snobbish and morally superior and all of this. You're not talking about the ideas of atheism or the ideas or concepts of religion. We're not discussing any of that.
We generally don't get caught up in that specifically, though. I mean, not that it doesn't come up, but we are interested in trying to find out, kind of like where people make their conversions, one, and two, kind of like some of the underlying reasons why people maybe have these beliefs. Because here's a very common misconception that Christians have about atheists, and I'm really glad that I've got to listen to this because there's a wide range,
All
okay,
right.
of reasons why. But a lot of Christians will assume that you guys just hate God and you
Right.
guys, right? You realize that, right?
I realize that a lot of Christians think that we hate God and that we're atheists because something bad happened to us and we're rebelling
Mm-hmm,
against God.
mm-hmm,
I could ask them the same question. Why do you hate Santa Claus? Why do you rebel against Santa Claus? We don't hate him. We believe that he doesn't
mm-hmm,
exist. He's
mm-hmm,
not real. He isn't there and never has been.
mm-hmm,
Why would we hate a fictional character?
mm-hmm. So the other thing that Christians do, which annoys me, is that they say that like atheists lack morals or they have like moral compasses, like they lack moral compasses, right? And
Hmm.
so the people who I interview, they're family men. They have sons,
Sure.
daughters, they're married,
Hmm.
they do charity work. And so this is what I'm trying to do. I think you completely misunderstood what I
Well,
really try to
no,
do.
now we
We
can talk about morals. You weren't
Yeah,
talking about morals before.
we try to
Um,
humanize the other side is what I'm
yeah,
trying to say. We try to say, hey, look, I'm a Christian, but if you want to talk about, politics, philosophy, I can have those
sure.
talks with you.
Hmm.
And I know how to avoid logical fallacies and,
Yeah.
create inductive arguments, whatever.
Well, did you ever get an answer back to your why atheists can be moral?
Like in my worldview, I believe positively that atheists, and you may not like this, but I believe that atheists more often than not act more in accordance with the Bible than Christians do. Because I've seen Christians virtually neglect what's in the Bible, like almost like
Okay.
90
Yeah, but the
something odd
thing
percent
about
of
it
it.
is if there is so much stuff in the Bible, in
Uh-huh.
the Bible, there are 613 commandments.
Uh-huh.
And you know that there are two sets of 10 commandments, and they
Mm-hmm.
don't agree with each other. Um, in the Bible, God says it's okay to own slaves. It even tells you how to acquire them and how to mark them and how you can
Mm-hmm.
sell your daughter into slavery if you want to, how you can get slaves from your nearby village.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there are a lot of things. It tells you that you need to kill witches when you find them. You need to kill homosexuals. All of that is in the Bible. And if I would think that if a person was getting their morals from the Bible, they would practice all of that stuff, but they don't. They get their morals from a separate, independent place like society, which I think is where our morals come from. We interact with each other, and over the course of ages, we have developed certain morals as acceptable and others as non acceptable.
Mm-hmm.
For hundreds of years, slavery was acceptable to our society.
Mm-hmm.
Then we decided it wasn't. And during that time, the preachers were pointing to the Bible saying God approves of slavery. Prior to the Civil War and even afterwards, they would preach from the pulpit that we need to keep slaves.
Mm-hmm.
That is not, would you consider that that is bad morality to keep slaves, to own another person?
It's bad moral. Yeah, absolutely. I'm against slavery.
Okay,
Absolutely.
then you're using a separate moral standard than the one in the Bible. If you think that we
Well,
shouldn't kill homosexuals, again, you're using a separate moral standard than the one in the Bible.
the places that you're pointing to, it's in a certain book that were designated for a certain group of people to live by at that time.
So we don't need to go by the Bible anymore. We don't need to
no,
follow
no,
the
no, no,
Ten
no.
Commandments.
If you're going by the Bible, Jesus came to fulfill that old.
So we don't need the Ten Commandments anymore.
That
was in the Old Commandment.
So basically, most Christians, when most Christians would believe that unless it was reaffirmed in the New Testament, then those things in the Old are not. They're not bound. For example, here's an example. Like eating something like shellfish or pig. Well, it's clearly shown in the book of Acts that these kind of foods are clean now, so we can eat them. But anyway, the point I was trying to say is that
Jesus himself said that not one jot or tittle of the old law shall pass away until all is fulfilled.
And he fulfilled it, and so that's why
Revelation fulfills it.
But if you're going by the source material, you're right. He says these things aren't going to pass away until the proper time that it's fulfilled, and he came to fulfill that. So because at least it's fine. You don't have to agree with it or not, but because this is off the point I was trying to make was that in my worldview, it's like atheists more often than not are more ethical than Christians. That's what I'm trying to tell you. So if you think I was trying to bash atheists, like you totally misunderstood the point there. Because
well, I'm sorry. A lot of times I get into a kind of a role where I'm defending atheists because I've had to for so long. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, look, we can have that whole extended talk. That'll take a really long time to have that talk. But I do want to close off here, maybe the next 10 minutes. And I do want to say this, that, okay, Jesus never existed. Let's say he was fantasy. At least if you're going by the source material, okay? Let's say the whole Gospels are all fabricated. Yeah. At least in that story, what you have more often than not is the people who are not like Jewish people. Those are the people who are more often than not in the New Testament following Jesus more closely. And for example, like the Good Samaritan parable, that just goes to show it could be the priest, it could be the preachers, the teachers of the law who see the person hurting and they don't go and help them. And yet someone like a Muslim or gay or an atheist could come along and they're going to be the one who goes and helps them. So that's what I see when I read the New Testament. I see that Jesus was more often than not amazed by the faith of the people who were like not Jewish, or we would say these days like they weren't Christian, but yet they had faith that was stronger than like the people who were in church.
I 100% agree that that people who follow Jesus as an example, rather than resorting to the Old Testament, are much better people and much more moral people. One of the things, though, that a problem that I and most atheists have with the New Testament is, you're familiar that the Old Testament was the old Jewish Torah, right?
Yeah, we just had
the Old Testament.
We've had a Hasidic Jew on 3 times now, and we're doing a conversation with
you know that there was no hell in that. They didn't have hell till Jesus came along. Jesus brought the concept of eternal punishment for sins against the Heavenly Father, and that your soul will live forever and in either paradise or hell. Now, those are anathema to atheists, Western atheists, I'll put it that way, because one, every single baby that's born is born into sin, and they have to spend the rest of their lives trying to make up for the sins of the very first humans, according to the Bible. And that, I mean, God belief is just one part of the religion that's a problem. To me, the problem is that you have to toe a certain religious line to get your soul, which is infested with sin, to go to heaven, none of which have had any evidence that they existed. Now let's just take the soul just for a second. The soul, according to Christians, contain our mind, body, and personality, mind and personality. They survive our death. Those are 2 claims. They live forever. That's 3 claims. They have a place that they go to when they die. Heaven and hell have to be separately proven to exist. They've never been proven. Souls have never been proven. All of this, there's like 27 main claims in Christianity that nobody really seems to address. I put them in a meme that I like to post occasionally. But
can you put it up there?
It's not just the God claim.
Can you put it in the
It's
background?
the religion claim, especially the sin claim.
Can you put it in the background?
Okay, that's what it looks like. If you make your screen full size, you might be able to read some of it.
Yeah, I can see. I can read all of it. Thank you.
Can't get my arm off camera.
Because I just need 1 more minute.
I've got an article that basically I took this item from that I can put the link into the article.
Yeah, anything you want to put as far as your society or your podcast, we'll put all the links in that. You just send that to me, and we'll put links to any Facebook stuff that you guys have in this in the video description. So we are out of time because we usually go about 1 hour, Larry. But I do want to thank you for your time and your. I do want to thank you for your time and your feedback. I think the more conversations that we're having like this is a good thing, because honestly, just really imagine this. Like we're separated right now by a continent, okay? An entire ocean. I live in South Korea. Yeah, I live in South Korea.
Yeah.
So I live in South Korea, and 100 years ago, you mentioned going back 100 years ago, 200 years ago, like this conversation would not have been possible. So we're at a new stage of human evolution, if you want to call it evolution, but where we're progressing, and we have the ability to interact and to see what else other people are thinking. Because if you think about this, like 50 years ago, I know you know this, whenever you were a kid, you would have had no idea what a person on the other side of the town thinks, unless you'd have to go and physically meet them and have a conversation with them.
Right. Sure.
But now in this age with TikTok, do you know what TikTok is, by the way?
I've heard of it. I've not used it.
They make a bunch of like 1-minute videos. People just do all kinds of silly stuff, stage a bunch of videos, but people are able to put out their ideas and to make memes and post them and stuff, and that they're able to circulate all over the world just like that. So we're at a very,
I think it's great.
Yeah. So we're at a very unique crossroads of humanity right now. And so we're playing a role in the conversations that we're having, and it's still a little bit uncomfortable, like obviously things got a little uncomfortable today, but we're still learning. It's not the process is not like complete.
Right.
That's what evolution does. It's like you gotta grow. So, but we're playing our role, and the more conversations we can have to try to see how we might agree on some issues, not just trying to find areas that we totally disagree with, but I mean, I'm probably sure we agree with 90% and stuff, but there's like this little 10% that we're going to like focus on. Right. And even inside of Christianity, I could tell you, I could find another denomination, and I swear we could agree with 99% of the stuff, but I disagree on one issue. Might be the Trinity or baptism or end times, whatever. And they'll literally just say like, I'm not even a Christian, or to say like, oh, I might think that something different, just slightly different. So yeah, that's,
sure.
I think we can spend more time focusing on the areas that which we agree on. So I want to give you the last word, and then we'll close out. Larry?
I'd like to invite you on our show. Of course, we do it every Sunday morning. I don't know if you can make it or not.
Yeah, I will.
In your time zone. But we do it at 11 o'clock on Sunday morning every week. So you're welcome to join us. As I said, my own content can be found at digitalfreethought.com. I put a link in there. Make sure you get the link before we close the Zoom window.
Yeah.
My own channel on YouTube is Doubter5 or Larry Rhodes. I have a book called Atheism, What's It All About? That's available on Amazon.
Wow.
You can reach me by email at askanatheist@knoxvilleatheist.org, and we'll answer them on whenever we do our next show. And I like to say at the end of my podcast that everybody is going to somebody else's hell. The time to worry about it is when they prove that heavens and hells and souls are real. Until then, don't sweat it. Enjoy your life. And we'll see you next time. So those are my words.
We had this expression back in California. We said, don't sweat it, bald headed. And after I lost my hair. So
Yeah,
I never imagined that one. So anyway, really want to thank you for your time and thank you for your input. And I do hope that we can have another conversation in the future. The way that I explain it to our guests, and sometimes some of them we've had for 3 or 4 times, is sometimes we're just taking a marker and we're putting it down to visit at a later day. And I explain this like as in football. If you're at the 50-yard line and you need to kick a field goal, that's going to be out of range. It's going to be like 60, 65 yards, actually, whenever you count the hike and how far back the goalpost is. So the more we can move the goalpost in, just even if it's just 1 yard a time, but the more we can move it in, the more closely it can get us into field goal range to kick and score a goal for world peace, because that's really what we should be shooting for, because we can agree to disagree and we can still respect each other. But if not for us, for our children and our grandchildren. So that being said, I want to thank you for joining us today at RHE Podcast. Don't forget to visit our website at www.rhepodcast.com, where you can find many more webcasts, videos just like this. And so if you'd also like to send us an email, rhepodcast@gmail.com, let us know a topic that you would like to hear us talk about. Or if you'd like to be a guest, we'd love to have more guests from different opinions. So thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you back again. Goodbye.